Hello everyone, this is Shelby with Shelby Creations. Welcome back to the Dragon's Den. I think I have, hopefully, keep my fingers crossed, come across a solution to my dilemma with all my storage. And it was because I was in Hobby Lobby. Yeah, I had an eye doctor's appointment, so afterwards, Nikki took me over to Hobby Lobby, and they had their boxes on sale. Boxes. Yes, boxes. Trying to find somebody to put that down because it's wet. Another one like this, it's not removable, but it actually feels like glass instead of plastic like the other one. But it's a nice little size. Didn't realize till a little bit ago that I am missing a screw on that one, but that's okay. I have small screws that I can put one in. That's one. Another one was this one, which I fell in love with a while back. I mean, that would be awesome for like labels or the longer, smaller ones. And then they had these that were nestled. There's one, two, and then there's a third one that goes in there. But I've already stained this one. So, but all of these are unfinished, which is okay. I can finish them. Yeah, I can redo them. And if you don't like the silver latches, they do sell the gold and the antique ones on Amazon. Which I don't know if I'm going to replace those or not. That's still an option. Then there was this one. This one is huge. Well, not as big as the one that we're decoupaging, but it's got a nice size to it. So those are the ones I've looked at for, or the ones that I got. Then I made a stain out of just inks. I think this one ended up being all alcohol inks. There was teal, there was espresso, walnut stain, and vintage mahogany or old mahogany, something like that. It came out, that is a beautiful little color. And yes, I did both inside and outside. And then I checked the ones that were already finished, because some people don't, they don't like doing those. And all of these were on clearance. I think for the whole bit, I spent, just around $20. Look at that one. Isn't that gorgeous? And there's enough room in there for papers, for my larger papers. So I got that one. And depending on, I can't really go this way, but I can do several, going that way, which would be great. And I love the way this is finished. It has the metallic, it has the oiled feel to the darker finish. Beautiful, beautiful, and it's flat. So, I can stack something on top of it. Then, my all-time favorite, and they only had one of these in mind, is this one. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? And this has the leather on the outside. I don't know. It could be fake leather. I don't care. But it just, it feels so creamy. And the metallic accent. But there's enough room in here for my larger papers. Maybe not my 6x6 and bigger, but, all the way up to that, this is going to be great. So, I've got the two that are finished. Let me set these aside, because for those of you that, for the heck of it, you're like me, you love getting something and working on it, is to redo them yourself. Now this one here, I did make a thing of my stain, and as you can see, it is a messy procedure, but with a water-based stain like this, it will seep into your wood, so you will have a deeper it'll soak in. So, because when you put something on wood, it's going to raise the wood grain. And then, even with though it's stained, you got that raised part, you need to sand it. And look at there. It may show where it's a little bit lighter, but that's okay, because if you need to, you can come across with an extra coat. And where you see you've got it a little bit too dark, you can come in and you can just sand a little bit more. So I really like that. And I think I had one corner that was showing, yeah, right there. I gotta wet my brush again. And see, I can come right in and just touch that one little spot and it will disappear. But that is so pretty. But there is the first thing you want to do is you want to sand your whole piece, because there are going to be some rough feeling spots. I've sanded all of mine. And the best part about this, rather than the decoupaging, is you don't have to remove the hardware. You can leave the hardware right on there. Now, what I do is I open it up first, and I always start with the bottom. So I can come in here and brush with the grain. And you may think, well, you know, Shelby, shouldn't you be using a sponge like they do, or a rag like with regular stain? No. I probably could, but with me, the brush is a lot better, because I'm getting, it may look like a lot going on there, and it is, but then it's soaking in, and you're getting that rich color. So, and you see how quick and easy this is. It is messy. You will get stain on your fingers, and I didn't realize that till after. Well, I did know that, but I wasn't paying attention to it till after I started, and I already got ink on my fingers. But you see how the grain of the wood goes this way? So I would say brush with the grain, but sometimes you can't. Like right around here. I mean, and it's just, and I don't have to worry about finding the holes again. Now, I'm going to come back over this with poly, and at that point, with that, I may decide on the next, because after this dries, I will sand it again. And if I need to touch it up anywhere, I will. And at that point, I may take the hardware off just to put the poly on. And it's just regular polyacrylic that goes over it. You can buy it at Walmart, Home Depot. But see how you can see the grain? Isn't that gorgeous? And get these all done. Get the all the way around the outside here. Now I will do the whole outside before I do the inside. And I'm not worried about it. I say, if you get it over on your metal piece, that's okay. It wipes off. Just a little piece of tissue, it'll wipe off. And there are some where you can see I did put a little bit more here than I did, say here. But as it sinks in, it will almost like an automatic writing of itself, leveling. I mean, you can see the wood coming out. This is so pretty. Oh, it's splattered. If it splatters, just spread it out. You can go back and finish up that area. And you see where it's starting to come up here, because the bottom grain was going a different way than the side, but that's okay. You know, it's not like paint. And the best part about this is that, see, it does run, but unlike paint, the drips and all just sort of soak in, and you don't have where they're going to show on the finished project. Now, when you make, if you're going to make your own stain, I used just regular alcohol inks in water, mainly because the tones were richer. But you can use whatever inks you have. And I would say to use ink instead of paints, because paint is going to leave a chalky feel when it dries, whereas the inks don't. Now I've got such a small space here that trying to brush with the grain is very, very difficult. Let's see, move that up. I'll do this little piece under here. But these are super simple to do. Anybody can do them. Just requires a little bit of ink. And I think that the biggest investment was my half pint of poly, as opposed to each of these individually. That's going to show a little darker of a band there, but that's okay. You can always come in and do a little bit of sanding and it'll lighten up. Because your darkest area of your stain is going to be towards the surface. The farther down you go, like as you see here, where it seeps into the edge, the darker part is at the edge where that is, and as you come in it does get lighter. So if it's too dark for you, come in and do a little bit of sanding. And I just use a regular sanding block. Oop, missed the area. Now this may seem awfully dark to you, so if you want a lighter stain, by all means use a lighter stain. Now for those of you that are going to, that would rather get the poly and stain that's all mixed together, you can get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think Walmart may have some of it. And they do come in the half pints, which is like only 8 ounces. So you don't have to buy a big, gallon size and then be stuck with it forever. You can most assuredly use that, but I would just suggest at that point, you also invest in some fine grit sandpaper and a sanding block, because you will have to sand between coats. Whereas this way, yes, I still have to sand between coats, but not as much, because, and I found this out, with the last one I did. Once this dries and I sand down where the wood has risen up, and it will, the wood will rise up some. I don't know any other way to describe it. You'll sand it smooth again, and then when you go in and use your poly, it doesn't seem to expand it after that. At least I haven't run into that. All right, now just quick around the inside, because I'm not going to see much of the inside. I'm going to see a lot of the outside. So a quick brush around, because I would rather have the darker tone on the inside than the bare wood. But that's just me. You can do it as you want, as you know, whatever strikes your fancy. I'm just trying to get this one done while I'm on camera. I'm not going to sit here and make y'all sit through me doing all of these, but I will show you what the finished project looks like. And then we'll see what will fit. And I've gotten a few other, suggestions on what to do. I do have some 12 by 12 that I use. And one suggestion was to do like trays, paper trays. I may do that with my 12 by 12. Or I may do that with my music sheets. But that is also an option that I am considering. Because, once you start thinking, well, this isn't working, I need to change, and you're wondering, well, what can I do? A lot of times I run into a block to where it's like, I know there are other ideas out there. I just can't think of them at the moment. It's like writers have blocks. Maybe it's a crafter's organizational block, because I've noticed that with a few others too. So I'm not the only one that has that problem. Okay, almost done with around the inside here. And then we just got the bottom and top, inside bottom, inside top. And yes, these are dark, but that's okay. I like the dark wood. Now you could also come in here and once all your stain dries, because remember, we're using water as our base, so give these at least 24 hours to dry completely. And then if you have like, what would be pretty with these would be maybe some gold filigree stickers. You could put those down and then put your poly on top of it. I have done that before too. Now this one I am going with the grain here. And there's not much of, the lines in the grain like what's in the top. There's not a lot of that here on the bottom. But that's okay. And now for the top. This is where you're really going to see the grain pop. See if I can get around here. I think I'm dipping my brush into the stain and I'm not going down far enough. There. And that's, you can see the wood grain. Isn't that so pretty? And then that's what the whole thing looks like. Now, if there's a few spots that, I see that's a part of the grain there, the way that looks. I can come in here and just touch up some areas that I think may need a little bit darker, or that I did not get enough stain on to begin with, or that I missed entirely. Get those down, and I think that's it. So now this one's ready just to sit aside and dry. So before I go in and do anything else, I'm going to close this up. It's not an airtight seal, as you can see through the lid part. And no, I did not put plastic wrap over it but you know, it'll last for what I need it. So that's 2 of them done. You can see this one, you see the difference how it lightens up when it dries as to when it is just applied. So if it's too light for you, you can always come back and put more. If it's too dark, you can come in and sand like we did the top. But now see, that one I haven't touched. You see the difference? And when it's just been done and when it's dry. So I'm going to finish the rest of these boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let them completely dry, and then I'll put the poly coat on it, and then we'll come back and see what we can fill them up with. And let's see, I think I do have a tray already for 12 by 12s over here that I can use. So we've got that too. So we're ready. So until next time, bye guys.